How's it guys, this is Dayvy FPL and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video we're going to be talking about the best new signings that have made their way to the Premier League. Now these signings are good signings usually, but sometimes they're not the best for our FPL squads. So I'm going to be going over most of them and we're going to be deciding whether we want them in our FPL drafts or not, as that game week 1 deadline is fast approaching. So if that's something you're interested in, sit back, relax, and let's get into the video. So a new season calls for a new sponsor, but here on the Dayvy FPL channel, we like our old. So I've brought back the old sponsor, OneFootball, but with a completely new revamped app. Yes, OneFootball has gone over a complete marketing revamp, new logo, new everything. I've checked it out, looks really good. They kind of took the old app, but just made it better. So I'm really appreciative of that. If you want to go check them out, link down in the description below to go download the app. If you don't know who they are, they're the biggest app on iOS and Android, so go check them out. I personally use them, so I can recommend them from a personal level. So before we talk about the assets, I want to talk about two specific talking points. The first one's going to be FPL assists, and the other one is going to be the farmers leagues. So when I did do the analysis on each of these players from the different leagues, their assists and their goals are the conventional goals, so not the FPL assists. So in FPL, you can get an assist if you have a deflected shot or if you win the free kick that goes in directly. So just keep that in mind, that could have improved these players' stats from the other leagues, and also that they could have been better options when we are considering them. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the Farmers League. So there's quite a reputation of the Premier League that it is of a higher standard than other leagues from around the world. While this may be true and not true, you can kind of battle it out in the comments down below. But if a player does well in a weaker league, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to do badly in the Prem. So we just have to kind of hope that they do manage to replicate the form they've showed in previous seasons when they come to the Premier League. So just keep that in mind when we do this analysis. There's a lot of factors going into analysis of a player that didn't necessarily play in the Prem for the previous season, and we kind of have to take that into account. So while we do have a lot of new signings from leagues from around the world, we have some old new signings. So this could be a player that played on loan in the previous season for the club, have now made that move permanent with the likes of Kyle Walker-Peters for Southampton. And you could also have a player from a relegated club that has now been brought back to the Prem with the likes of Aaron Ramsdale. Some of the bigger hitters in terms of teams have also made some switches. We've seen Ben Chilwell make his way from Leicester to Chelsea, and then Willian swap London clubs. He's gone from Chelsea to Arsenal. So these players are also quite nice to think about. They also give us some options at some cheaper prices. With Kyle Walker-Peters, I do think he's going to be getting game time because they've made that move permanent. If a player moves to a club, they usually are guaranteed game time. This isn't the case in all transfers, but it definitely does occur usually. So just keep your eyes on some players that have made the switch from club to club. So the first team we're going to be talking about is going to be Chelsea. I think Chelsea offer the best potential in terms of their new transfers. I'm going to be talking about the attack because I think the defense has a lot of question marks about it, not in terms of quality, but in terms of who's going to actually be playing. Chelsea have managed to sign two new centre-backs, Thiago Silva and Sarr, and it's going to be a question of whether they start or maybe Azpilicueta will. I think Azpilicueta is probably the main keystone in that defense, so he's definitely going to be playing. So it's going to be interesting to see if he plays at the centre-back or the right-back position, or if Reece James manages to win that right-back position as well. They could even play a 3 at the back maybe, with 3 centre-backs incorporating Azpilicueta, and then Reece James will definitely be getting game time, as I think he's the preferred fullback in that Chelsea squad. But as I said, the defense has a lot of question marks, so we'll be focusing more on the attack, and I think the attack is a little bit more exciting. My favorite option from Chelsea right now is going to be Timo Werner. 9.5 million, came from the Bundesliga last season, having played 34 games, 28 goals and 8 assists, and I think that's exactly why he's my favorite Chelsea options. Those stats just speak for themselves. He's one of the most clinical finishers in the entire world, so that's why I'm really happy for him to come to the Prem and we can have him as an FPL asset. The Kai Havertz price was just released a couple of hours ago, so I'm making this video fresh off the press. He comes in at 8.5 million. A very attractive price because Pulisic comes in at 8.5 as well. So that's why I kind of am highlighting Havertz, because he's a nice placeholder. We can easily go from Havertz to Pulisic when Pulisic manages to recover from his injury, as they both are the same price. I also like Havertz because he's going to be playing more centrally. I think he's going to be playing that cam slot because that's his preferred position. And I think the link-up play between Werner and Havertz is probably going to be quite good. I'm not just saying that because they're both German. I think that that's just naturally, they've played in the National League together and the same league. So hopefully they get some communication on there. With Ziyech, he's also a good option, coming a little bit cheaper than the others at 8 million. But I think out of all the Chelsea assets, it's probably going to be Timo Werner number 1, Christian Pulisic number 2, and then Havertz number 3. So another option we could be considering for our forward line is going to be Rodrigo. This is quite a controversial transfer because a lot of people think that Leeds might have overpaid for a player that played 27 games but only 4 goals and 7 assists. Now, I think with Leeds' fixture, we're given that opportunity to kind of assess the situation and see how he's playing over those first 5 fixtures, and then we can always bring him in if he's on top form. It's currently owned by 6.1%, so definitely a differential there, but I think that 6 million price bracket that he currently is has better options. I'm thinking of Che Adams and maybe Mitrovic even. I know Mitrovic is from a promoted side as well, but I do think he's more of a talisman than Rodrigo going into this FPL season. So I think it's a wait and see on Rodrigo. I don't think I'm going to be jumping onto a Leeds attacker just yet. Now we move on to Nathan Ferguson, who's had a lot of press this FPL preseason because he's 4 million. That's basically the only reason why I'm talking about him. He comes in at 4.8% ownership. I think that's because of his knee injury, so he's currently out injured, but as far as I know, he will be starting as soon as he's fit. I think that Crystal Palace have signed him from West Bromwich Albion to be that starting fullback. He is quite young, so I think he's going to be a good developmental player for the likes of Crystal Palace. At West Bromwich Albion last season in the Championship, at the start of the season, he was playing quite regularly, but towards the end of the season, he basically wasn't in that starting 11 at all. Now, whether this was because of injury or just simply because he was dropped, I don't know, but I do think at Crystal Palace, he's hopefully going to be in that starting lineup. Not the best stats in the world, 1 goal, 1 assist in 21 games, but I think at 4 million, he just has to get the odd clean sheet, and I think all of us will be happy. Another Crystal Palace signing that they've made is going to be Eze, or Easy, however you want to say it. He's currently owned by 1.6% of people. I think that's because of 2 factors. One, he's a 75% chance of playing. He currently has a groin injury, and the other thing is he is quite expensive for a championship player. At 6 million, there are other better options. I think even at that 5.5 bracket, you could opt for Saint Maximum even, and I think he's probably going to have a better season than Eze will. 14 goals, 8 assists, and 46 games played. Quite impressive for a young player, and I do think he's a really good signing for Crystal Palace, but I don't think he's going to be the best signing for our FPL squads. Now we move on to some more premium assets, still in the mid-range though here with Donny van der Beek, recently signed for Manchester United at 2.1% of ownership, but you can't take that too seriously because of the fact that Manchester United do blank in game week 1. But with those fixtures you can see on the screen there, you can see why a lot of people are targeting the United assets. The question right now is how we're going to be getting them in, because they are quite expensive. Greenwood comes in a little bit more of a budget option that we have been considering, but then Donny van der Beek comes in at 7 million. If he plays a similar role to the likes of Paul Pogba, who is currently 8 million, I think he's going to be quite good value. 1 million cheaper than Pogba, and if he's getting similar returns to him, it's going to be a nice value for money option that we can have in that midfield. I think he's going to be more of a box-to-box that will get the occasional assist and goal, but I think at 7 million he provides some good value there. Also should be getting an extra clean sheet point if Man United manage to shore up their defense quite a bit, so that could also be an enticing option to go by. 8 goals, 5 assists in the Eredivisie with Ajax. Obviously, the Eredivisie did have less games last season because of the pandemic, and they managed to cut their season short. But I think over the past couple of seasons, he's been quite a consistent 10 plus goal and assister. So I think that's going to translate into the Premier League quite well. The last option we're going to be talking about is Matt Doherty, definitely the most popular option out of all the transfers in, currently at 25.7% ownership. Now, while Matt Doherty, I personally preferred him at the likes of Wolves. I just thought that Wolves were a little bit more defensively strong than Spurs. Spurs have improved defensively since the lockdown period. So if he's managing to get a couple clean sheets, that'll be really nice for him. Comes in at 6 million, got 4 goals and 8 assists last season in 36 games played. I do think at Wolves he was one of the main talisman, so that's why I kind of preferred him there. At Spurs, he's going to be going into a side that has a lot of high quality players as well, which might take the pressure away from him a little bit, so he could even perform better. But I just think it's going to be quite interesting to see how he adapts to that 4 at the back system that Spurs used last season. So if you watched Wolves last season, they played a 5 at the back, so 4 at the back might not suit Doherty's attacking presence, but going forward they could maybe transition into a 3 at the back with one of their midfielders dropping. I think the main reason why I'm not really going for Matt Doherty at this point is because of this whole Serge Aurier situation. So Serge Aurier and Doherty played the same position, and the rumor was that Serge Aurier was on his way out. That has not transformed as of recording this video. There were talks that he was going to go to AC Milan, but that hasn't kind of come into play yet. Within the next week or so, maybe if Serge Aurier does get the transfer out, then Doherty will definitely be starting every game and then looks a lot better of an option. But I think with two players of high quality competing at the position is putting me off a little bit at the moment. So thanks for watching the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Please like it if you did, and subscribe if you're new or have not subscribed yet. I'm pretty sure we're going to have lots of transfers from now till that Game Week 1 deadline. So keep your eyes out and your ears out for any news that we do have. I'll be checking you guys in the comments down below. So type your questions and I'll reply to the majority of them, hopefully. But otherwise, I'll check you over my Twitter at DayvyFPL. And I'm only signing off. This has been DayvyFPL and I'm out. Cheers. Bye.